Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third appointment of Pedagogies of Care meetings here on Museum of Care platform. I'm Andris, and I'm going to host this conversation. And today we have two guests, Edna Gee and Mariette Schiltz, and they represent an experience and a project, or several projects that I've been lucky to be partially involved with in Milan, Italy. And these projects are Isola Art Center, and then now Isola Pepe Verde. And then I hope that by telling the whole story, it will also emerge how many other side projects, exhibitions have been created and have evolved throughout these years. So the Pedagogies of Care series are trying to deal with first of all, we started with some historical figures and references from Asja Lacis to David Graeber, so that's a very big time span, almost a century, to whom we are referring. But what we're trying to do here is to actually speak to some of the practitioners who are continuing to work in this manner and who are dealing with projects that have a pedagogical aspect to them, or simply putting it, which are the projects that try to reinvent being together, like a kind of meaningful, staying and being together, a meaningful way of communicating and doing things together. So I think Isola Art Project has been one of such very important and formative experiences for me and for many, many other people that I know in Milan and elsewhere. And maybe I would like, therefore, to pass the floor to Edna and Mariette. Would we initially maybe tell a little bit of a story? I don't know how you structured exactly the presentation that you've prepared, but maybe it would be great to delve into the story of the Isola Art Center, like how this initiative started, and then to unpack also what were kind of pedagogical tools that you were using, what were also these kind of communitarian tools. It was also a public art project. So there were many, many interesting aspects that we could tackle tonight. And then I would say that maybe today we could allow the presentation to run till the end, and then we could dedicate the last 15 minutes to the questions and answers. Is that okay, Nika? And so that we would not kind of derail too much, and so that we could respect 1 minute more or less. Okay, so Mariette and Edna, welcome, and we are colleagues, and from Edna has been also a student in Abbe, Milan, where I teach, and Mariette has been linked with another important figure, an artist, Bert Theis, who has sadly passed away some years ago, and I think we could dedicate this conversation to him as well, who has been a pivotal figure within the whole experience of Isola Art Center. I pass the floor to you, and I'll try to moderate this a little bit, okay? Welcome, Edna and Mariette.
I think Mariette will speak first, and then she will tell a little bit about the history and some key concepts, and then I will pick up from Mariette after that.
Can you hear me? Yes? Yeah. Hello, and thank you, Andris, for the invitation, and also the Museum of Care and David Graeber Institute for this invitation. I'm a video maker and a former social worker, living in Isola, Milano, in the district Isola, called Isola, in Milan since 97. And our project started in 2001. So it's a bit difficult to tell the story, but I will try to tell it also speaking about the tools that we developed or what we learned with our project, working on it. And then Edna, who joined later, will then tell from her point of view as a student and today as a teacher too, how she lived and what this project made in her work and in her life, maybe because it changed the life of a lot of people. So that's maybe what is important to say is that you don't start such a project just by an idea. Wow, now I want to do a long time project. You need also, first of all, you need companions, not only accompanying you. Sorry for my English, not always perfect. But also to create with you, and you need also a situation where people around become more sensitive about things like having interest in contemporary art, which is not obvious in a former worker district like Isola in Milan. So we were maybe lucky to have, we had these companions, and we had also a district where people at the beginning of 2000, when the first pictures of the new project of a top-down urban transformation were published, people immediately got, they activated and wanted to create a committee. But let's first see from the point of the art system. In the beginning of 2000, it was also a moment when artists wanted to work outside of the institutions. They wanted to leave the white cube. And in the 90s, you had the starting of a lot of biennials, biennales. And in such projects of biennales, it was possible to work also outside of the institutions. You could do a project with people where you were invited, and Bert was invited a lot to a lot of biennales. But after a few of them, yeah, we got frustrated because when you started a project, after 3 months at the end of the biennale, the project died, and you went to the next biennale and started again from the beginning and again. So we thought about starting a long-time project where you don't need to live on the plains as an artist. And that was the moment when in Isola, this so-called Città della Moda, the city of fashion, was published. And when we met a group of residents who wanted to create a committee to try to change some small things of this huge project, because I think it was one of the biggest construction sites in Europe at that time. And so we thought, looking from the art, we thought it could be like an experiment to see if really art can change a top-down political or urban decision, because we thought art has all the tools to do it. And so one of the things that the residents wanted to change in this project was not to destroy a former factory called the Stecca, because it was the last testimony in the district of a former industrial district, of a worker class district, and destroying it would have been like cancel the history of the district. And so we squatted the second floor of this building and started together with many students from Art Academy, also NABA Art Academy, but also Politecnico, we started a kind of center of experimental art. At that moment in Milan, there such a kind of like Kunsthalle or was didn't exist in Milan. I think it still today doesn't exist. And so we started to work there, and we decided because we wanted also to leave this white cube, we decided not to transform it into a white cube. And so we thought about this concept of the dirty cube, so from the white cube to the dirty cube, and invited artist friends that we met in former biennales to do projects with us. This is a work of Mariette, Maria Papadimitriou, Revolution is on Hold, and New Museum is a work of two Italian artists, Kings, called Kings. And we started a kind of experimental art institution without wanting to be an institution. So we did everything like an institution, but obviously we didn't want to be. Nobody of us wanted to be become the director of an institution for just to. It's more like Gerald Raunig, the philosopher Gerald Raunig, his instituent practices that is like a project that never can arrive to a dead end or a stopping point. It's like a permanent experimentation. That was the idea of this Isola Art Center. And we made a lot of exhibitions inviting artists from Italy, but also from abroad. And people from the district helped, school classes helped, and we did everything to help and to help the artists to realize the projects. Bert, at that moment, always said about himself that he was like a sub-curator, like someone who just did things when it was necessary to do them and when nobody did them. So we just helped artists helped artists and then made their own exhibition, but also helped other artists to realize and did everything from cleaning up a space to help during the opening. But also organizing workshops for children around the theme of the exhibition. It was like what we called, what Steve Piccolo, one of our companions, musician, he called it, it was a local project. It was extremely local, but also global, because we invited artists from all over the world to come to Isola to realize the project. And it was often, they told us that it was possible to, like Thomas Saraceno, for example, with his Museo Aerosolar, he said that it was a project that he couldn't have done in an institution because it was like a support from the whole district. And that is not possible in an institution, he said. So, but then this experiment was over in 2007 when the city government decided to make an exchange of terrains to give this factory to the developer, and it was supposed to be destroyed, and then it was for us as artists, we decided to not to stop our project, but to go on, and we declared the whole district our art center. So, and the concept Bert gave to this period was that of Isola Art Center, a dispersed center. And that was for us very interesting. It was not such a good time for people of the district who used the Stecker building, but also the parks around, surrounding the Stecker as a piazza of the district nearly, because it was the only green area in the district. And for them, with the children, it was very difficult because Isola didn't have another green place, not even a bench, or and not that much trees even. So it was difficult, but for the artists, it was a new start, and it was very interesting. We worked on for example, here, the Rosta project called, because we thought about the work of Russian artists who made posters to help the Soviet Revolution, and we made these drawings and artworks on shutters of the shops. So during the daytime, the shops were open, and the district was the normal district. And in the evening, when the shops closed, it was like an exhibition in the whole district. That is one of.
Yes, can I just intervene a little bit? Yeah, so this was an extremely interesting project, and can we see the next slide, because it shows a little bit of the project. So Isola area in Milan has been the area that has been redeveloped in the most extreme way. So if you would go there today, I think you would not recognize it, because in the years, like, so this was somehow the whole deal was a huge development, urban development, and real estate developers, Heinz, who literally were assigned the area. And so now it's all skyscrapers, and actually many of the green areas or other areas that you were trying to protect are not existing anymore. But what I wanted to ask, so these all the tools that you developed, they were so powerful, and one of the kind of interesting and also crazy things was that some of the architects or people involved in this redevelopment project, they also appropriated some of your kind of strategies or tools, and then they were kind of trying to tell or sell them through this new project, and then it was quite weird to assist to that. Sorry that I interrupted, but just wanted, maybe you can also speak a little bit about that, how they sort of appropriated some of your strategies, because you were deeply ingrained in this community, and you really worked with them, and so they therefore seemed that they had this necessity to adapt some of your language that you were using, actually. Yes, sorry, please.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we call that cannibalismo, the cannibalism. Yeah, that's let's say what was also interesting in this project was in this dispersed center, and that was something that Charles Esche, the director of Eindhoven Museum, who came to Isola a lot of times and discussed a lot with, he helped us also with this finding new concepts, which is very important in such a project, I think, to discuss with people. And Charles I think that the Dispersed Center was also born when Charles told us about a drawing that he saw at the Architectural Biennale, where an architect developed a house where every room was in another district. Like the kitchen was in the district, I think it was Athens, it was in the district of the markets, and the living room was near the sea, and so, and then, yeah, it was the idea of the dispersed house, and so came the idea of the Dispersed Center. And Charles always said that we were so lucky not to have, as he had, an institution that costs a lot and that must always try to bring people there. But when we wanted, for example, to make a talk, then we asked the library, the bookshop of the district, to give us a room. And so people, we went where people were. So that, or we made also, we worked on the shutters where people walked, or we made a party in the piazza of the district where we asked people to bring food, and we discussed together. So that was when we got aware that with the stacker, losing the stacker, we maybe lost the battle, but we won a community. So this is, for example, one of the projects in eating all together in the main piazza of the district. And with this new situation, we also thought about what we did in the stacker with art was not anymore possible, because in the stacker we tried to defend the building, installing artworks into the architecture, like site-specific art. And with this new situation, where the district underwent already gentrification, because when the new projects were known, immediately the prices of the houses went up. And we were aware that art in such a situation, as everybody knows today, is used to accelerate such a process. And therefore we decided to link all what we did, all our projects, to a fight, to a conflict, and to link it to an action of the district committee, for example. This was work by Bert. It was the untitled Untilted, 4 benches and the white wooden wall behind. And it was supposed to be like a symbolic barrier, which obviously would not resist, but they had to take it away when they closed the parks and began the construction site. So with this, in this situation, we thought about how to call this kind of new way to make art linked to this conflict in the district. And yeah, then discussing also with other projects like Park Fiction from Hamburg or others, we decided to call it from site specific to fight specific, linked to this fight. And that is something that we continue also today. because during this dispersed center, we continued to dream about what we wanted to do in the Stecca building. There was the idea of the people of the district, together with the artists, to make there a new kind of center for the art and for the district and for the community. This was a project by the Out Office that Bert created, Office for Urban Transformation, where with a simple drawing, the wishes of the district, what to do inside and outside of the Stecca, was put together in one drawing. Yeah, you see, there was the art center, but there was also cinema and places to play, and well, all the ideas and wishes of the district, like an archive of the desires in this drawing. And that's what brings us to the office that Bert created. Because when art has the tools, yeah, we thought then you need a strategy, how to go on in this new situation. And the Office for Urban Transformation was the idea of Bert was to bring together artists with the inhabitants, but also with architects, philosophers, lawyers, musicians, all the people coming and wanting to work with us. And Out developed 3 points to make a kind of research and to develop a strategy. And that was the first one, to analyze and to study and to make research about the place. And the second one was well, to dream the transformation of the place, or the place, or of the place you live in, or the world you want to live in. And the third one was to not only to dream, but also to transform, to make a small transformation, to try to change something. And with these 3 steps, we went on to look for a new place to realize this Center for Art and Community, even if in a smaller form, like bonsai. We found the only empty place in Isola that was that belonged to the city, and it was a dirty place, closed, and we needed some 3 years, I think, 3 or 4 years, to convince, with a lot of actions also outside of this space, to convince the city government to give us this place, to realize what we wanted to do in the Stecca in a smaller version. It was then in 2013 that we opened this garden, Isola Pepe Verde, a community garden today, where we still do some very small art interventions, more like homeopathic, in a homeopathic way. This, for example, is a photo by artist and photographer Paula Di Bello. It is a collective portrait. This was also the moment maybe when we still worked outside of the Isola Pepe Verde, when Edna joined together with other students from NABA, no? When you joined the project. So maybe you can tell from your point of view the story.
Maybe before you go ahead, Edna, I just wanted to say that yes, this project has been a very interesting and very intense kind of process since, as you said, the Isola Art Center was the first step, then Office for Urban Transformation, and then there was for a moment also a period when this dispersed museum idea or dispersed institution idea brought you to many biennales, many art projects. You were also advocating for this project internationally. And then there was also another project, but maybe we can return to that in the end, which was called Isola Utopia, or Utopia Isola, which was also a collaboration then with an occupied factory called Rimaflow. But now, since we wanted to give a word to Edna, and Edna, I also wanted to ask you one thing, because I remember that when you were still studying, and I was already an assistant of one of the professors in the school, Marco Scutini, and I remember that there was one particular situation where it seemed that we had some aversion because you were initially very much kind of against social interventions and art doing kind of political interventions. And I remember that it was Theis who involved very frequently all of us. And he was someone who was really not theorizing so much, but so maybe you can also like elaborate on this kind of issue, because it was perhaps a practice more than a theory that convinced you somehow, not only convinced you, but then you're still collaborating with Isola Art Center. So what brought you here, and what was really like happening? Because there was something quite magical that was always unfolding when you really started to work with the people and in this very concrete territory. So maybe you can just recall a little bit what was going on.
Yes. So
how you got involved and how you stayed there.
Exactly. So I think, as you mentioned now, like I was quite skeptical in the beginning, because I sometimes think of those sort of participation projects as a little bit pretentious. You know, it's like I'm doing social work, and it's almost a little bit, how can I say, padronale, you know, like you are taking care of the poor community. And, you know, I come from South Africa, and there are very many social projects. So I think my perception of that was like, you know, a do-gooder kind of perception of social art, if I can say it like that. So I think in theory, often many people just do that in theory, right? So whereas this experience that I lived in Isola with Bert, Theis, and Mariette, and many other people, was really very concrete. And I think that's where I can sort of start off. Before I continue, I wanted just to make a correction of what Mariette said. The artist that was doing that, the revolution is on hold outside of the Stecca is Tania Bruguera, not Mariette. So just to make sure that that's corrected. Yes, so I'm going to show you, start sort of my story with, first of all, I must mention that I joined Isola actually very late in its history. I joined in 2012 when I was a student of Bert's. But many students and international like artists worked in Isola Art Center, and for many artists, also young Italian artists, that it was a very formative experience, both during the Stecca years, but also after in the dispersed years. So a lot of the things I'm talking about, it's my own experience, but I am also going to show some pictures of things that came maybe before me that I didn't live, just to not create a misimpression that it was my work or some. Let me just make sure I have to share another screen quickly here. So yes, I got to know Bert and Isola when I moved to Italy in 2011. I started my master's at NABA, and in that point in time, I was still sort of struggling to find my place also here and figuring out who I was and so on. But Bert was an amazing teacher in a sense, because I think the thing that I must say about Bert is that he didn't have a traditional way of teaching. He didn't give you a lecture, and you know, as you mentioned as well, he didn't like just theorize about things. He really taught by example, and he made you learn through living in a way. And I think that was an incredibly valuable experience. Like, you cannot put a price on it, actually. And so so this first picture that you see here is the year that came before me, 2011. His students curated this exhibition. It was Camilla Pin, and I don't remember the other girls' names now. And they invited also this London collective Public Works to contribute works. And the exhibition was also at service of the community, because it worked to collect signatures to help to gain the space that at that point they dreamed about, that would later become Isola Pepe Verde. Or so this was the sort of still in the years that they worked, the 3 years before the garden actually opened. So you can see this was an exhibition view. And here they were actually organizing a workshop to build echo boxes. And it was the neighborhood and the artists and the students and the collective Public Works. And they built these echo boxes, which now you will see in Isola Pepe Verde, all these boxes that hold the plants, because you cannot dig there. There's no soil really, there's cement. So we had to transform the garden in a different way. And so you can see already the students working with the community and working hands-on as well, and having a real experience and real interaction with the people. These are the seed bombs that Public Works made. They're a London collective. I don't know, some people might know them actually. And they made these seed bombs that we then threw into they were thrown into the space, which was still fenced off, that they were going to use for Isola Pepe Verde. So they were sort of occupying the space already, but at the same time, they formed an association that would then become Isola Pepe Verde, so that they could get actually permission from the municipality to hold the space. Because this was a way, after the experience that the community had lived with the Steca that was just demolished and taken away, they didn't want to repeat an occupation in the traditional sense again, because they really wanted to put in the work and have something that can stay. And so a strategy was then to collaborate with the municipality and try and convince them to give the space. So this was one of the projects. And then I joined the next year, because Bert invited his also our class then to think of a project for Isola Pepe Verde. And we were still, they didn't have the space at that point, so it was still like an awareness making. And so in front of the space where they were to take up the garden, which was still closed off, they held like a sort of Festa del Paese, so a little party, the community. And for that day, then our class planned some projects as well. And we were still so experimenting, trying to figure out. And so here you can see I organized a picnic. I made these quilts, sort of showing the construction work. And then we were sitting in the street. And this was really quite radical for me at the time, because I come from a very suburban context in South Africa, very privileged suburban context. So for me to occupy public space was like, oh, you can just do something in the street. It was really very radical for me at the time. It was not maybe for everyone, but for me, it really was. The way that you could use public space. And then, of course, there's other group of students. They organized the workshop with the children, like sort of painting, very tactile experience for the children. who at that point had no park really to play in that area, because the whole, if you walked around Isola at that time, it was still a huge building site, really. Everything was under construction at the time. So, and there is Edith Poirier, who's also still with Isola Art Center. And there she was doing her first mural in the city. And now you will see her work. She's very involved also in Piazza Transiti, with a group who fights a lot for housing and social housing and the housing crisis in Milan. And so but this was one of her first works also in Isola Art, with Isola Art Center. And I will show you later another one of her works. So I think it was really this, that Bert involved students in the project, and as Mariette said, he called himself a sub-curator. So he really gave you authorship over the project and allowed students to really get their hands dirty. And I think that was really what sort of switched me over to that. So here you can see another student project that was in the years after. I wrote down the name, but now I cannot find where I wrote down her name. So this was already when the garden was occupied, and you can see a beautiful space in the garden as well. So this was just before the opening. Edith and I painted this banner, and Bert, and this is Stefano, I think, putting up the banner. So everyone sort of worked. You didn't just do one thing. You could be an artist, but you can also just do other work to support the project, right? So it was really very organic kind of way of working. At the opening, at the first inauguration of the garden, we invited also Nicola Ozunovsky, and he was building these like the solar sun and the solar cloud. And here again, we assisted him. So you're not working maybe as an artist on your own project, but you're helping another artist. And I really do think that doing these kind of things, assisting others, it's not only it's a learning experience, but it's also an exchange of ideas, of kind of, I don't know, it's a different way of working, because I guess what is important to say is that we often don't have a budget at all that we're working with, you know, so you cannot do things the traditional way. You have to work through collaboration, through energy. And yes, Bert always said Isola functioned on energy. You know, he was always like saying that. So here's another picture from the inauguration as well. And this was like an experience that completely blew my mind, because I could not believe what was possible. You know, like the community did this. They transformed the space. And if you see the space now, I mean, here it was still so empty, but now the space is so green and so warm, you know. It's really one of those amazing things to see how people come together when something positive is offered to people, or when an idea comes up that inspires people. People want to participate and create something, something of care, because this is, as you say, it's the Museum of Care that we're talking with, but I think this is an example of care in the best way possible, because people have to take responsibility themselves. There's a joy in that, you know, which we shouldn't exclude at all. And so this was it. And then here we are realizing the gate, because it has a surrounding gate. And the gate was designed by Wei-Ning Yang, one of my classmates at the time. And then all of us helped to realize it, to paint the gate. And then also, again, with this idea of working with the energies of others, we used a local cooperative, which is like a project that works with educational training for young people, called Arimo. And they came to cut the gate for us the next day, so the cutouts of the gate, because Wei-Ning did something similar to the Japanese sort of shadow theater idea. So her idea was that the gate can have a shadow. So it's Isola Pepe Verde and Isola Art Center is a relational project in its truest sense, because you are truly working with people and it isn't your project alone, you know, so you don't always have control over the aesthetics of the project. So this was us realizing a sort of collective mural with the people in the garden. And I know that Edith and I don't love this mural, we don't like how it turned out aesthetically, but it was still a project that we worked with children, everyone could come and paint something. We learned also from Chiara, who's still involved in Pepe Verde and who's an art restorer, and she gave us this technique to mix the paint with the white stuff that I cannot remember now, but it's that helps to maintain it longer and outside on the wall, like a real mural, you know. And so we learn some techniques as well. And so I think this is important just to say that you're not, as Mariette mentioned earlier, you work in a dirty queue, you know, you don't work in a neutral space. It's not like you're showing up and you're putting on your show and you can say, you know, you can do whatever you like. There's an interaction there with the people that you're coexisting with or working with. And so, you know, making a collective mural, or now the next picture that I'm going to show you is like the mural that Edith and I painted. It's Edith's illustration that we then painted on the outside of Isola Pepe Verde. And here was a real example of having to sort of work together with the people in the garden, and also having to work a little bit to convince them of your idea, because we had to attend all the, they have a bi-weekly meeting, Isola Pepe Verde, which is open to the public, and anyone can participate and discuss the workings of the garden and how to manage. And if you have a project to propose, then you propose it in this meeting in front of everyone. And they had invited me and Edith to do this. And then we showed them our idea and they were not convinced by it, because they said, no, but we wanted more flowers and colors. We're only seeing like people. And we had to work a little bit to convince them about it. And so the meeting ran until past midnight that night, and no one was convinced. So we had to sit down and really write. So Edith prepared an alternative sketch for them for in case, and I wrote a text explaining and defending our idea, our original idea. And we worked because for us it was important that Isola Pepe Verde does not become part of the gentrified neighborhood. Because if you walk around it now, you see the Bosco Verticale, you see an extremely like uptown aesthetic. And you see a lot of murals as well in the neighborhood itself that is being used by the developers and marketers as a placemaking mechanism, I would call it. And so the idea was that we did not want to forget the roots of Isola Pepe Verde, which comes from the community that fought a battle. And we wanted to maintain that memory alive. And so once we wrote that into the picture and we said, well, this is the memory of Isola Pepe Verde that we're keeping alive. There are enough plants in the garden itself. We don't have to paint them as well. And in the end, we won them over, but you had to work at it. You couldn't just do what you want. And I think this is a beautiful example of how listening to people, but also being able to be listened to, you know, is a great example, and why I like to work with Isola Pepe Verde.
Thank you, Edna. I think, yeah, this was great to hear this kind of testimony. And actually, yes, the Stecca building was lost, but Isola Pepe Verde still exists in Milan. So if anyone comes to Milan, I think all of you are most welcome to join, and you can also propose any kind of activities or parties or whatever you want to do there. Of course, previously discussing with the community that runs the place. It's 10 to to 10 here and 10 to 9 in London. So maybe we should open floor to some comments and discussions. I think this sort of rings the bell with the experience that we saw last time, and also I will try to continue to invite people who work in this direction. And this is a perfect example of which I personally was part of, and it was very formative for me as well. So I'm wondering if there are some comments, questions from or maybe some points which we didn't tackle. And I would like to invite you, maybe Mariette, you can share afterwards. There is a book which has been published about Isola Art Center, which is called Isola Fight Specific. So that's the term that you used. So fight specific. And then there were all these, yeah, this is fight specific Isola, sorry. And this can be consulted online, and then maybe you can put in the comments also the website where you can see, because I think the website collects all of different projects that you presented and that we talked about. So are there any comments or questions? I don't know, Nika or someone.
Yeah, I would like to ask more specifically how all these people were collected. So students and an artist who were a teacher, I forgot the name. So it just invited them to do as an art project with the community. Was it some financial structure? Was it some governmental support? Was somebody applying for grants? How was it integrated into the capitalistic system? Because it's very much looks like a house of culture in Soviet Union in a way, you know. But in the same time, it was like the one unique place where the creativity was kind of bursting. So just if it's possible to describe the details. Thank you. And
So
thank you very much for your presentation. It's amazing.
Yeah, as far as I remember, sometimes there was some kind of methods also developed, because I know that everyone who was part of different institutions, there was a kind of network that was created. I know that we as NABA sometimes, as an institution, since Bert was teaching, so if somebody was coming to NABA, he would be derailed sometimes towards Isola. So this was a kind of unofficial way of supporting it, but maybe Edna and Mariette can tell more about it.
Yeah, during when the Stecker was there, it was just like the students came because they heard that there was this possibility of spaces, and there was nothing like that in Milan, so it was not difficult to make them arrive. And there were two young curators, Alessandra Katja Anguilova and Alessandra, I don't find the names today, Alessandra Poggianti, and they took like they began to create like a group of these young people, and they always met and discussed, and they called themselves Sugoe, which is a Japanese name for beautiful or something like this. And they just developed ideas by their own, but some of them also collaborated with the Out Office, where they met people like musicians, so they participated in projects. There was always something to do, and people, you can show your work, you can discuss with them. So that was really a very open platform where every day it was interesting to come and see and who's working today, and about the budget. So we always said that we are not low budget but no budget, which will not mean that we didn't have the possible when we needed something, we asked, because we always said that when we don't have money, we don't have false friends. And it was a difficult situation because we squatted this factory, and it was supposed to, it belonged to the city government, but who wanted to give it to the developers. So it was difficult to ask money from the city government. And when we needed something to realize an artwork, then we asked friends, like for Mariette Capotrit, she realized the work, the core unit. It is a building made by bricks, by mattoni, by bricks, and it is the elementary building that they give you in a favela in, for example, in Brazil. And she wanted to build one into the stacker, and we asked a collector if he was interested to do it for us, and he did it. So we tried to find other ways to exchanges, things like that, to realize projects. That was about the money. And then this group was also autonomous and decided several projects. And so it was, I think, a very stimulating moment also for students from like also Brera Academy, where, because it was a little bit like working in a biennale, because you came to a place, you met the people, you discussed with the people, and you were protected by us, by Isola Art Center, by Bert also. But you could do things that you never were possible in an academy or in a project. Like in an academy, you can do a show in the walls of the academy at the end of the year, but that's all. You cannot do things like that. And so it was really easy to always have a lot of young people coming from art schools, and also Polytechnico, because there was also the out office, who, when there was an exhibition organized, also a special project around the urban planning, and about the fight of the, at what point was the district committee, and so it was really a place where you can come and say, I have an idea, I would like to do that. And if you find, what Bert said, if you find the energy by other people who say, oh, I can help you, and then you can realize your idea. If you don't find this energy, then it is difficult, but it's another way of working. In fact,
Thank
like
you.
I said, with
Thank you, Mariette. I think that also there are some other questions, and maybe we can. Tatiana has raised her hand, so please go ahead, Tatiana. Thank you.
So much. This is fantastic, really inspiring, and also your narratives, your stories, the way you tell the story, it's very passionate, and yeah, I can feel it. I was wondering two things. One, in which ways do you think these projects to be pedagogical? And if you had these words, these ways of thinking in your activism. And the second is whether you have international contacts, networks, if you have been exchanging with other collectives and so forth. Thank you.
I don't know, Mariette, do you wish to answer? Or maybe I can say about the pedagogical part. I mean, it is not directly set out to be a teaching experience, if I can put it like that, but it's educational because, well, for one, students have always passed through, and there has always been an exchange of ideas, the possibility to really participate. I mean, there are also sometimes directly workshops. We have the artist Ruggero in Pepe Verde that organized these workshops with the community to build these giant puppets to do a street parade. So this is more traditional type of workshop done. This was also done on one of the anniversaries of Pepe Verde. So there are some more experiences that are more traditional, like workshops, but I think it doesn't necessarily follow a strategy of being pedagogical. It's just very much a living experience. And maybe I can say that when we did a project called Isola Utopia that Andris mentioned, and there we spoke of, we're looking for concrete utopias, and we're kind of like collecting something that it isn't like a utopian idea that's not, you know, a nowhere land or something like that. It's something that is possible, right? So it's the quote from Henry Lefebvre that's saying like, the utopist thoughts explore the impossible, but the utopian thought emanates the possible. And I think so maybe from that point of view, it's looking for examples, you know. And I think that Mariette can better explain the international network, because we have a lot of friends of other collectives and people that collaborate. I think Mariette would be probably better at explaining it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we learned a lot from other projects. For example, Park Fiction in Hamburg, who fighted 8 years for a park, and they came also to Isola. Other groups like Atelier d'Architecture Autogérée in Paris, but also artists like Dan Perzhowski, who we met at the Biennale in Luxembourg, where he was invited. And when we wanted to invite an artist or a group, like etc., also from Argentina, then NABA helped us a lot. For example, we asked NABA to invite the group or the artists for a lecture, and then we brought them to Isola. So Marcus
we're piggybacking on the bank of NABA.
But Marcos Cottini is also one of the founding members of Isola Art Center. He was with us from the beginning on. So it was, and Bert was teaching at NABA. So it was, that was our secret weapon. NABA helped us a lot, but it's also a good, it was really a good collaboration, because then artists went to NABA and came to Isola to maybe do a project, and students came with them. And so it was a very, we also invited artist teachers from Brera Art Academy, like Alberto Caruti came for a lecture, and his students were already working with us, and also Luciano Fabro. So it, I think that that we didn't invent things. We learned from others, most of what we did. And that is also what is important to say, that it is not, it is the project of Isola is an example, and we are really happy if someone can find something, take something of it, but it's not a model. It cannot be a model. It doesn't want to be a model. So we are also today, we are still in contact with other projects, also Victoria Square in Athens, and new places coming, or projects that we would like to visit, and we invite also to our community garden groups and artists to come and visit us, and if possible we host them and in the community, and if they want to do something, we help them. They just come and like Edna said, for the mural, they come and talk about what they want to do, and then if there is the energy to realize it, then we will do it.
Yes, and thank you. And maybe just one thing, I mean, the pedagogical aspect is that you can intervene in this public space, you know, that you have this space of intervention, actually. I think it was like, if we want to see the figures from the past, there was this anarchist pedagogist Colin Ward in England. He wrote a book called The Exploding School, which was supposed to bring the kids on the streets, you know. So the street is actually the place where you can really, where this true pedagogy happens. You don't have to have a specific setting. All right, so are there any other questions or comments, or somebody would like to intervene, because we're running quite late otherwise? I haven't seen the chat. Maybe there was some chat.
Yeah, maybe I just want to add that we also collaborate with Rimaflo, which is a situation just outside, on the outskirts of, like a sort of outskirts, sort of on the in the hinterland of Milan, which is it used to be an occupied factory of workers occupying a factory after being retrenched, or because the factory moved their activity to a cheaper country. And then the people were left unemployed. And so a group of them occupied the old factory and started their own activity. Now they're not occupying anymore, but they're still self-managed, like in like sort of a worker-managed cooperative, which is a very interesting project. And we've collaborated with them as well. We've done projects. Here we invited Nikolai Olenikov to do an artwork within the factory. And it was called 2-3 Small Things in the Agenda of Rimaflo, this work. And so, yes, I think this is also really wonderful that you can work in a space like a factory, you know, because also in a workspace, you can have beauty, you can have critical thinking, and this was
it's also interesting, Edna, that today the Rimaflo example, they became really the factory, which was like before it was an occupied place, and now they reacquired the space, and this is actively functioning as a cooperative, you know, as a kind of new type of economy, you know. The workers reacquired the space, this failed factory, and through this experience, and have learned how to work on their own, and now they are like owners of the whole place, and they are, so it's a very interesting also model, you know, really study actually.
Yeah, and they have also a network of other factories that works in similar way. Like this is Viom in Thessalonica, and this is a mural that Edith did there. Edith Poirier did this mural there. And so it's like a collaboration as well. And we went with Rimaflo to the workers' economy meeting in here in Viom, one year. It was in 2016 or 17, I don't remember, but we went there as well, which was really, really an interesting, stimulating experience as well, to see what people can do. And working.
Maybe I just wanted to say, because we invited the Austrian artist Oliver Ressler, and he realized a video, a film about Rima flow and also about Viom. So we met, it's like from meeting an artist, you come to another project. So it's everything linked together. And Oliver was in Isola several times as to show one of his films, but also to discuss with us about gentrification. So it is a little bit also he who brought us to our concept of the Isola utopia, the concrete utopias by one side, but on the other side, Oliver Ressler, who worked with Rima flow and with Viom, and so he brought us to them. So everything is a bit linked together.
All right, so this was so fascinating, and I think maybe this is a good point where we could sort of stop. I don't know if there are some last interventions, comments, or something. Otherwise, I'd really like to, sorry?
The red book is the Italian version, and it's not possible to have it for now. And the black one is the English version, and we still have books, but the Italian, we must reprint it because it's
All right, fascinating. So thank you so much. I mean, yeah, here you can see in the chat, there is also the Isola Art Center website. And I hope this was kind of inspiring, like to work together and to really think about new types of pedagogies of care, as we called them. And thank you so much. And I hope this network, through you and through everyone we invite, can kind of get bigger and bigger, and we can interconnect with new people, new actors, new friends, and bring this work like together, continue to work in this direction. Thank you so much, and we'll see each other next month. So there will be Pedagogies of Care, the fourth meeting. And yeah, thank you, Nika. Thank you, Museum of Care. Thank you, Edna, Mariette. See you soon. Bye-bye.